let's look at silver from another angle, shall we? The one event that a lot of people aren't counting on is war with Iran. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. It actually could have happened years ago, but there's push and shove going on. But it looks like the tide's going to turn enough that there will be a war with Iran, and Iran's going to get their clock cleaned. Basically, that's what it should happen. But that's going to be extremely bullish for the commodities. War always is. Just getting down to reality, but that's what's going to be the curveball. And also, it's going to spur on QE. Don't underestimate the military-industrial complex. I'm a realist. So, like I said, I'm not a silver pump and dumper. It's going to go way the hell up. I think it's going to top record. I think it's going to hit probably $70 or more this year. And this is right off of War with Iraq at General Smedley Butler from Marine Corps. He was a two-time Medal of Honor winner, very much against war because he figured out what it was. It was a racket. But me, I know it was a racket. It's always been a racket. I know it's a racket. And that is why a lot of people call for war, because they're going to make money off of it. Give you a lot of examples. Talk about even Rockefellers. They talked about the Lend-Lease back during the Vietnam War. Lend-Lease to Russia. Yeah, they could never use any of this stuff to help North Vietnam. That was a bunch of garbage. In other words, the U.S. taxpayer gave loans to Russia so they could buy stuff from Rockefeller's other big money factories here in the United States. And of course, they defaulted on the loans later on in the 90s. And they were forgiven the debt. In the meantime, somebody made a nice, surefire sale. So that's the way it goes. And you know what? Nobody's got the balls to stop it. So that's the way it is. And even Smedley Butler didn't stop it. So there almost was a coup in the 1930s too. Almost was. Almost. And this is out right off of War is Iraq at basically public information. And take one of the little steel companies talking about World War I that patriotically shunted aside the making of rails and girders and bridges to manufacture war materials. Well, the 1910 to 1914, they averaged $6 million a year, back then, right? Yearly. Then war came, went up to, from 1914 to 1918, $49,000 a year. See, this is the type, that went up 8 times. This is the type of stuff that's going to go on with silver. It's going to happen. And, we're playing the same kind of cycle that was in the 30s, that was in, World War I. And these guys are shrewd. That's all I got to tell you. They're shrewd. So their earnings went up. Same thing with Anaconda Copper. Yearly average earnings during the pre-war years, 1910 and 1914, $10 million a year. During the war years, they leaped 3.4 times to $34 million per year. Same thing with Utah Copper, averaged $5 million a year, 1910 and 1914. Went up over 4 times to $21 million a year for the war period. And then talking about, take 3 smaller, let's group some of these other ones with the smaller companies. Total yearly profits of the pre-war period, 1910 to 1914, were $137 million. They went up to $408 million. So over about 3.5 times. So he's talking about profits in approximately 200%, but more like 400%. Well, maybe the profits are up 200%. I wouldn't be sure, but that's the actual revenue that they're showing there. Does war pay? Yeah, it paid them. And that's exactly what's going to happen. There's a lot of people that have interest in war. So we're going to have war. Definitely. I know it. But if it kills religious kooks, that's a fine with me. I want to actually point out some other this is something else I was working on. Heavily redacted document for public consumption. Basically, this comes out from iGas. You've probably heard of that. This was one load, and there's actually 2 of these. This is called safekeeping receipt, called an SKR. Atomic triggers. Atomic stuff goes in atomic triggers, caesium isotopes. This was half the load, $270 million. $1 million. No bullshit. And talking about a volatile commodity. This stuff is really volatile. Well, caesium, yeah. Yeah, the joke is, can you eat it? Sure, you can eat it if you want to have your insides burned out in 3 seconds flat, or maybe 1 second flat. You know, that's the joke. But this is these are used in atomic triggers, basically. So worthwhile, very expensive stuff. You know, somebody needs something for atomic triggers, they'll pay this kind of money. So war is a racket. So what happens? You got to look at the other view. Something's coming. I know people don't want to hear this garbage, but you know, I'm going to state this too. You know, David Icke, the kook, the nut job, the lizard people. Well, you know what? I guess I'm part lizard people then too, because you know, I talked a little bit about little grandpa almost shot the doctor, but we used to have there used to be the other one called Big Grandpa because he was like 6'4". He was actually half English, and he was an illegitimate son of royalty, actually born in London. I will not state the last name because actually it's an Italianized English last name. So maybe I'm part lizard. David Icke, you are a total whack job. But you know what that tells me? Most of the people in the world are freaking nuts because they listen to people like that. But anyway, you know, what I see coming down the pike, I see that there's going to be a major conflict in the Middle East, and they're probably not going to be able to unravel it too easily unless they're really good. But I've been noticing, at least, you know, from the time of George Bush Sr., things have not been going as good. If George, you know, as evil as this guy is, I'd rather have him in right now and take care of it. You know, no problem, because George Bush Sr. would take care of it. I don't like what's going on right now. I don't trust Hillary Clinton as head Secretary of State or Obama as president. And you need a real devil in there to freaking take care of this stuff. And we don't have one. So this war could be a major mess. But if you got your bets on commodities, you should do good. You should do very good. That's the reality behind it. I know a lot of people are going to get pissed off at me saying this garbage, but that's the way I see it. I know what's going to happen. And if you really want to stop war, you better just stop it. But nobody's got the balls to do it. That's the thing. They'll scream like, we can't stop the war. But you could. You could. People sit around like a bunch of lemmings. You know, they could stop the war if they want to. They don't. It's amazing. But, you know, people need to be told what to do. That I figured out many times. If they're told what to do, they'll do anything. But otherwise, they'll never do anything in a million years. But, you know, like I said, that's where most of the profits come from. Eisenhower warned about it, the military-industrial complex and everything like that. Well, guess what? Guess what? That is more applicable today than it ever was by many more times. This is why your commodity is going to go up. It's the curveball. And everybody's going to be going, the sky's falling, the sky's falling. Actually, people who have silver and gold, they're going to be making out. That's what's going to be happening.